Welcome to Around Town. Lord and be gory, we're in the month of March, and yes, St. Patrick's Day is on the horizon, but first day of March, and of course we also got the Ides of March coming in. And how many of you people know the Ides of March? I'll have to see how many people know that. You know what it is?
I've heard it, but I really don't know what it is.
You didn't know who the Ides of March were, Chief?
No.
How about you over there, Ian? Now, back in my time, and as a teenager, the Ides of March were a rock and roll group with a #1 hit single going on. Well, of course, I told that to a older school teacher down in York, Maine, one winter day, and March it was. We're going to find out March 15th is the Ides of March. That's when Julius Caesar had a conflict or something. So that's how the Ides of March are. But anyway, St. Patrick's is on its way, and Easter right after that. So I am happy to have with me, as I've said before, our police chief, Brad Osgood. And it's nice to see you. It's been a while since you've been in a little bit. You've been kind of busy with either budget meetings or...
Yeah, so we've had to cancel, or we had some conflicts because, we have, this is the time of year where I submit the budget to the city manager, and I'm also hiring new employees. So
police officers?
Yeah, police officers. They're going to be starting here in about 4 weeks, so I had to get a bunch of interviews done. So
and that's going to put you still at how many lacking?
Well, it looks like coming the first week of April, we're going to put on an additional 5.
Well, that's good.
So we'll still have 4 vacancies after that, but the police academy fills up so quick.
Yeah.
That anybody else that I still have to do backgrounds or interviews on, they're going to be deferred until at least September.
Gosh.
Yeah.
It's terrible, isn't it?
It's a long process. There's so many different phases, but our organization is very good at screening and selecting the right group.
Yeah, well, that's great. I know last time you were on, come to think of it, was when your community aide there that helped my sister. And I saw her since then, and she thanked me for mentioning that to you. And she said, you didn't have to. I said, yes, I did. I said, you folks don't get thanked enough, especially you with the green uniforms on. I said, the blue ones, I don't know how much more they get thanked, but I said, I think it was very nice what you've done, what you did for her that day. And
so you're talking about our parking enforcement officers that work strictly downtown for the most part. We do have a mobile unit that gets into the neighborhoods, but they're on a foot route downtown, and we like to think of them as ambassadors. There's so many visitors to the city looking for a restaurant or looking for this, that. Where's the nearest parking garage? And so they're really the face of Concord. So and they're all very, very pleasant, hardworking people.
They are, and I know I appreciate the help they give. And there's another one too. Oh, I know. I just met him the other day. And when Deb was out there, and he's gone by a couple of times, but this was the first time I'd seen. Second time I'd seen him. And he's not an officer, but he said that I said, I'm sure that I said, I'm surprised. You have the look of one. Plus you've got the walk of one, or the march of one. And he kind of laughed, and it's, Mason Lane. What's the right?
Yeah, Mason is a
maintenance person.
He's a maintenance person. He's a jack of all trades. He does some work inside the police station. He handles washing cars, if you will, but then he goes out with the parking enforcement officers, or the meter technicians, helps repair meters, collect from meters, and helps with just general repair things. He's, like I said, he does everything.
So his mother works there, and I said, well, that's nice. And but it was Lane, right?
Yes.
Yeah, very, very polite young man. And I said, do you think you've got police work in your future? He said, well, I don't think so. He said, there's something else he wants to do. He said he may take a course in crime, in criminal at the tech school, but there's something else he's looking to do. But I said, well, whatever you are, I'm sure you'll do well. So
Yeah, he's got a good head on his shoulders.
yeah, very, very nice. And but it is hard because you put the news on or read the paper, and it seems like every day there's a mishap somewhere or a fatality somewhere, and I don't know who in their right mind would want to be one, especially around these big cities. But we're very lucky, very fortunate here, knock on wood, that we haven't had anything like that happen here that I know of anyway. But these schools, they've got to, your phone must be ringing off the hook sometimes with these school incidences and everything else. It's like, what in the world is the matter with these people? But, and then, was it yesterday, they had a teacher who locked himself in a room. Thank goodness, once again, that he didn't hurt anybody. He locked himself in. He was having, I guess, a mental breakdown or something. But what the heck? And then our illustrious Presidente or whatever, wants to have the teachers armed with guns. And I don't know if I myself am not in favor of that. I mean, I do know they probably, but I said, they probably need something, but gosh, is that the answer? And what would happen if some kid gets the keys to these teacher lockers or teacher desks? Well, the teacher maybe, you don't know. There's so much going on, and I still blame the TV industry, the movie industry, because it seems like they're not going to get anybody to come to the theater unless they've got something like that going on. And I don't like it. I won't watch it.
Yeah, no, what happened in Florida was certainly, it was devastating, to that school, that community. This has been happening periodically for, the better part of 2 decades or more. And every time something like this happens, there's always this call for a national debate on, gun control. And I know that the president has talked about, arming teachers and things of that sort. But from a local level, I think the first thing we need to do is, when we look at our schools, is to make sure the schools are as safe as possible as far as physical security. Whether or not they have, how are their points of access monitored? Is it they just open unlocked doors, or do they have a check-in system for visitors to go through the main office? Things of that. So we should be looking at physical security first. The other thing, arming teachers in schools, I think you have to look at that from a regional perspective. So we're here in New Hampshire, central New Hampshire. We have to look at the climate and the environment here in New Hampshire, as opposed to major metropolitan areas, So I think that, the decision shouldn't really come from the federal government or Washington, D.C. How schools handle security should be left to the local districts, in my opinion, the local school boards and superintendent's offices and things of that sort. That's where I stand right now on my opinion.
I don't know. I myself, you've still got the resource officers in the high school and junior high or middle school.
We don't have one at the middle school
No.
just yet, but we have them in the 2 high schools. And it goes back to every time this happens, you bring up the media, and it's every time you turn on the television or you open up the internet or you read a newspaper, it's front headlines.
Of course it is.
And certainly children, that are going to school are aware of this to some extent, depending on their age. And certainly parents that are sending their kids to school, whatever level, whether it's kindergarten or sixth grade or high school, are aware of this national, I don't want to call it a trend, but so it can produce a sense of anxiety in both the children and the parents. And it's unfortunate because that, for the student, it inhibits the learning experience. I would think. So, always having to be aware and have, lockdown drills and things of that sort. That's just uncalled for in today's society.
I know. I don't know. I mean, we had the bulliness in schools in my time, and it's continued up through, and then all this. But this stuff now about weapons and I don't know. I mean, yes, Nashua, Manchester could be considered mini Boston, but still, I'd hate to hope that we don't see it come into New Hampshire, but you never know. I mean, you could take a school like up in Lebanon or even up in Littleton, Berlin. You don't know. You just never know when that time and place gets called. But I know. But it's just a sad, sad thing, and I just wish that we could just do something. But anyhow, but other than that, what else is on the horizon with you? Do you think they're going to cut your budget much?
Well, it's always a negotiation, I guess. But my budget is other than personnel costs, which I really have no control over. The compensation and fringe benefits and things of that sort. The discretionary stuff, it is what it is. It's not. I'm not asking for 10% more or 20% more.
So you've been conservative.
Yeah,
then.
very, very conservative, and I think it's a reasonable budget.
There's something that came up the other day. It was at the legislature that they got talking about, and it was about, I know what it was. It was about these flag people, and there was a debate going on about the officers. Should the flaggers be trained like police officers as far as traffic duties go? Who should do what? And we haven't voted on it yet, but that's what I know it's been coming up.
Yeah. So I mean, you drive around, the city, and sometimes you'll see police officers at a traffic construction site, and sometimes you'll see flaggers. And I think the city of Concord does it very well. We like to think we have local control over that. We want to be able to dictate that when you're on Loudon Road, in the middle of the road, we want to have police officers. But if you're on some dead-end residential neighborhood, there's no reason to have a police officer. So we make that decision. We have local control, and I think essentially what the legislature is, I think, attempting to do is take away that decision making from me, and keep police officers off of the streets at these construction sites to some extent. And I disagree with that bill.
I know it. I because I go by sometimes when I'm out traveling around, and some of the flaggers, I mean, they're either standing there with a radio in one hand, a cigarette in another, or a cup of coffee in another hand. It's like, are you paying attention? Because it's like, they're not watching anything. There are some who are on the ball, maybe, but, there are others that they just are not watching. Right. And it's like, it's sad, because one of these days, a good accident's going to happen.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is, I think a lot of the people that manage construction projects obviously want the cheapest labor that they can, and flaggers are cheaper than police officers. But I think that, especially when you're in high traffic areas such as Loudon Road or, say, Route 106, I think the people that are working at the site really take comfort in knowing that there's a police car there with blue lights on.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
as motorists, we see blue lights, we see red lights, we see yellow lights, and we pay much more attention, I think, to blue and red lights.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that traffic, as it's approaching these construction sites, it's a lot safer with those blue lights.
And I think now too, because the wreckers all have yellow lights on them, and I've caught a couple with red ones on them too. But, and then you've got more and more, I'm seeing these funeral hearses with purple lights on them, and you don't see them. I see them, because I remember when I worked at Bennett's part-time, if they had them there started to, and I thought, what's purple? You can't even see it, especially in the daytime the sun's out bright. But, and the same goes, I think we talked before, is if you see a funeral cortege coming, you let it go. You don't try to pass in and out of it or stop them. They have the right of way through traffic lights. They don't have to stop for a red light. They continue on through. Right. Of course, then you got the ones who think they're smart at the tail end that'll put their lights on so they can go right with them, see? But they're not part of the cortege or not. But
right.
It's a riot what people will try to do. And then the walkers, I mean, if some of the sidewalks, I mean the streets are not, they don't see the crosswalks and they're jaywalking like crazy down through. You know, it's just, and they get mad if you don't stop. Well, hello, you're jaywalking. It's not legal, you know, and it's still getting more and more, especially in the handicap parking, of these cars that are parking in these striped spaces. Remember I told you about that?
Yeah.
More and more they're doing that, and I don't know about summertime if it'll kind of lessen up, but the wintertime has been a major increase of that. I've seen it happen in several places where they're parking in that striped spot. Walmart's one of them. And I've said before, I've told a couple of people, hey, you're not supposed to park there. It's not legal. Oh, yes it is. I said, no, it's not. And it's crazy. And now we've got another supermarket coming in on Loudon Road, which, if you saw the paper yesterday, I think it was. I don't think it's today. I think it was yesterday. Aldi or Aldi or something like ALIDI.
Yes.
It's coming up here on Loudon Road, just up by across from the Steeplegate Mall and what's it called, the Arrigo movie theater.
Yeah, I don't know much about that.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
But like, my goodness, I'm coming to the right something to pay for. It's like every green space we've got left on Loudon Road has got to be what do you call it? They're cut down and put a store in. They got the mall that's 3/4 empty now. Why don't they just go in there? No, rent's too high probably. I don't know. It's just it's very sickening because, you know, I just can't see it myself. But who am I?
Yeah, the mall's a great property.
It is.
There's got to be a unique business model to that can go in there. I'd be interested to see how that shapes up in the next few years.
Well, I was talking with London Crafters the other day. I had to go in there and have glasses fixed, and the guy who was behind the window come out and help me. And he said, we were talking about that, and he said that he was hoping that Lens Crafters would have moved across the street into the little strip. I said, well, I'm glad you don't. I said, they're not big enough for anything. You're better off right in here where more people can come in. The parking, get more parking here. He said, well, that's true, but I said, well, I don't think much of it myself. You know, and then you know darn well that once that gets all taken up on Loudon Road, then they'll be heading right to 106 and finish developing that old mess. up there across from Bank or TD Bank there and stuff. You know, it's just, I don't know. And then you still got Main Street with storefronts that are empty. But I don't know. I mean, you figure after Easter shopping, there's not too much going on after that until next August when they start back to school shopping. Really. Right. I mean, Memorial Day isn't that big. Neither is 4th of July. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
The internet has taken off for online shopping. Some of these giants on the internet, and you know, shipping is minimal or free. It's convenient. You can get next day or 2-day delivery, and so the retail industry has got to be coming up, or has to come up with alternative business plans, you know, to survive in the economy that we see today.
You know, and also too, yesterday the big announcements by Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart now are saying they're going to limit gun sales or some of the weapons to someone 21 and over. No more under 21s are going to be able to purchase that. What do you think about that?
I don't know if I have an opinion one way or another. I think that you know, they have the I guess the authority to do that, you know, within their business model. You know, that's part of the national debate, whether or not there should be an age limit. You know, if you're doing it because the person that did the shooting in Florida was 17 or 19 or however old he was, and to think that, oh, that wouldn't have happened had he been 21, I'm not so sure that's a good argument. But you know, we have the age of 21 to purchase alcohol, and there's a reason for that. So is there a justified reason that to purchase a firearm should be 21? That's subject to debate.
You know, there's a pro and con to that. As you were talking, I was just sitting here thinking, how old do you have to be a police officer? Last I checked, the academy had no guideline. However, most police chiefs across the state use the guideline of 21. Oh, it is 21. So there's nobody 19 or 20 or 18?
Smaller towns will probably hire somebody that's 20 or maybe even 19 up north.
Okay, so if I wanted to be a cadet, and that's what they used to have years ago at Concord PD, or an intern or whatever, do they have guns on them?
No.
So if they're riding in a cruiser, they cannot be had weapons.
Yeah, like the Explorers and through the Cadet Academy?
I guess, because back in the 70s, early 70s, there was a group of students from New England College that were on Concord PD, and they were called cadets.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been armed.
But they had the badges, they had the hats, the everything, and they had the cruisers, and they would be out doing different duties. And I wondered then, I said, gee, that puts you in a tough spot, because, you know, in the same way if they go in the service. If they're 19 going in the service, they've got weapons. Really, aren't they? Somewhat. Yeah. If they're infantry going over to the, different countries.
Yeah, if you're in the military, you're assigned a weapon.
So I mean, it's really a tough situation when you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've never shot one. I don't own one. And it's like, I wouldn't know one different type from another, except I do know what a handgun is or something, or a pistol. But they were showing on TV something about, was it the automatic locks or something? There was something that there was a mechanism there or something. I thought, I never knew they had them on shotguns or rifles or, so I mean, it's a big, I know we've got something coming up in the house, because I got an email on it yesterday. That's going to be presented to the delegates, to the representatives next Tuesday, and hopefully for a vote on either Wednesday or Thursday. And I thought, oh brother, that'll put a, because last week we had a vote on something, and we had the whole upstairs cheering as we voted on it, and speaker said, quiet down, you can't no more cheering. But there is a lot of tension out there because, you know, they are afraid of what could happen when you go to school. I mean, when I went to school, I never would have thought of something like that happening. Most we thought it was a fire drill.
Yeah. I mean, with, you know, again, this comes up every time there's a, you know, a critical incident such as what happened in Florida or, you know, Newtown, Connecticut at Sandy Hook. I think that the debate has to continue. Both sides have to be cordial and understand each other's perspectives, and that's, you could make some progress having the debate. Is it going to happen overnight? Certainly not, but I mean, there always has to be respectful debate on the issue.
I'll tell you what, it just used to be you had domestics was your big thing, or speeding cars or whatever, but now it's almost like it's the opposite. It's much more serious, and we haven't had too much at the high school. Concord High. Now, you don't provide a school resource officer for Bishop Brady, right?
I do not.
All right. If they wanted one, would you survive? Is it because they're not in the Union School District system?
Well, we would. If I had the staff to be able to do that, I would do that, or at least entertain that. If the middle school, if I had the staff in the middle school wanted us to have a resource officer, I would do that as well. If the elementary schools wanted a school resource officer, I would entertain that. I need the staff, and you know, with the middle schools, you can almost have a shared SRO where he or she goes from one school to the other, you know, a day here and a day there, etc. And the way it works with the Merrimack Valley and Concord School District, we have an MOU, so they are the school district is actually partially paying for that resource.
Oh, yeah,
so the general fund, you know, isn't taking a full hit on that. So.
Well, we got the ding-ding, so that means we're done for another day.
Done for the day.
Yeah, done for the day. And don't forget, if you like us on Facebook, go to facebook.com/Concord Speaks, and you'll see our shows all on there. So, well, thanks again, Chief, for coming in, and hopefully we'll get you on again before April 1st. But legislature's been playing games with my schedule. That's what's hurt, so... But then again, any questions you have about whatever we've talked about, give the chief a call, and he will be more than happy to sit and talk with you or have you come in and see him. So he's very, very much community oriented. So with that in mind, thank you for joining us on Around Town. Thank you, Chief, and
thank you.
Behave yourself on St. Patrick's Day, and eat your little cabbage and all that jazz, corned beef and cabbage. Thanks to Ian Marx over there, and I know he'll be over here to silence my cell phone. So we'll see you again on Around Town. I'm your host, Dick Patten.